Hello again, it's Rick with vidcast number 3, YouTube video in which I discuss FDR 2723 from the call-in show on Free Domain Radio, 14th of June 2014. Yeah, the dangers of unschooling. Now, I've discussed this 2 times already. I was thinking today I might get stuck into some science proof for this point of view, but then I thought that's not where people are at. They don't really need the science because they're still, shall I say, grappling with the concept of how this applies, in fact. So what I'm going to do instead is focus on some different advice, albeit briefly, a different approach than Stefan Molyneux has used to address Mark's daughter's difficulties with unschooling. So first point, Steph said at about 1 hour and 13 minutes, or maybe 73 minutes if you want to look at it that way, into the podcast that as fathers we've got to have each other's back. So Steph's helping Mark out, father to father. Likewise, may I do the same. I'm a father. Steph, I think I've got a clue here. I think I'm onto something. I think it's frickin' genius. You've been bailing me out of moral, ethical, philosophical, social dilemmas for 5, 6 years now. Crikey, more like 8 maybe, because I've been listening a long time, donating and paying attention, and you've been asking for correction. I've got a correction. Let me debate you. Let us put it onto the Skype and have this chat. I know you're busy with your Detroit thing with men going their own way and stuff. When you get back, can we talk about this, please? It's been 2 weeks, man. I'm totally up for it. Please, let me do for you what you have done for us. First point. Right, there's several topics I've got to cover. I had to do my little mind map. First thing is, okay, the childhood we had is different, Steph says in the podcast. So to paraphrase, the childhood we had is different to the one kids have today. Cheap, amazing, graphic, and sonic tsunami of stimulation. I might have done that one, a bit of alliteration there, but that's the gist of it. It washes away the boredom that drives creativity. It makes kids passive consumers of entertainment. That's the first thing I want to contend with. I'm probably not going to prove it, but let's take it from a different perspective. That boredom doesn't drive creativity, passion drives creativity. I think when I do my science video, which I hope I will get to next, so rather than aesthetic proofs, which I did in the previous one, I'll get into the science of things and prove what I'm saying and make some arguments from that perspective. I'm going to get into that one. That would be something I'd like to put one against the other. Is creativity run from boredom or from passion or from something else? Is this idea that Steph keeps reinforcing, boredom drives creativity, is that really true? For now, let me just say, I think not. And also, here's a quick little list I sketched down the other day. Okay, Steph, you're 10 years older than me, something like that. Even so, I think a lot of the things on this list you might be able to relate to. Children today. I've got children today, so do you. I think we know that when we were kids, we weren't exactly devoid of stimulation, especially compared, say, I don't know, to the Middle Ages or pre-industrial revolution. Here's some stuff that we had. We had comic books when we were kids in the 70s, didn't we? Early 80s in my case. We had the Spaceys, the Space Invaders. You go down to the fish and chip shop or what have you, the burger bar. I'm trying to, some Americans watching this, I'm trying to be American. Just wait till later. And you get the Space Invader thing, the Last Starfighter, all that stuff. Pinball machines, if you're a little bit older and, listen to The Who. And then by the time Steph's a kid, you've got Space Invader machines. In fact, you've got personal computers, especially by the time I'm a kid. Had an Atari 800 XL. Love it. Still got it, still use it. I get my Atari 260 out for my 4-year-old and he plays it. And that makes me happy because it's so retro. I even had an Amiga. That's getting into the 90s though. Oh, we had radios. We had ghetto blasters when I was a kid. That was like you put it on your shoulder and boom, boom, boom. We did not have iPods. We had Walkmans though, and we had cassette tapes. I used to tape material off the radio and put them onto. In fact, have I even got one in the? Maybe not. It's not unusual for me still to be used. I do have this. You know, I suppose this is kind of pointless. You know what a tape is, right? But cassette tapes. This is what we had when I was a kid, rather than micro SD cards or something. Not saying I was listening to Neil Diamond, which is what this is, but I don't need to put that away now. I'm making a video. We had a lot of stuff. We could record our own voices. We could make radio shows. We had some stuff, dude. We had these comic books. We had computers. We had Space Invaders. We had records and record players. We could listen to radio, and that was a big deal. That's something kids can do. We had collecting trading cards. We had little gremlin cards. We had Star Wars going on. We were not drowned for stimulation, to be honest. And if it's true that a tsunami of stimulation washes you away, I do not think we can really say that when we were kids, Stefan, we were off the hook. There was quite a bit going on. Honestly. I mean, it's true that the graphics these days, to you and me, it's just ridiculous compared to what we knew. But I do not accept that it drowns out creativity, and I do not accept that childhood is categorically different today than it was when we were little guys. Alright, what's the next thing? Number 1, 2, and... okay. These walls are funny. This is the next part. The detox part. Now, there's a couple of ways of taking this one. I want to address the part about where Mark's daughter talked about, or Mark talked about his daughter, thinking that the kids were idiot. Excuse me. The kids that she knew now just look like idiots to her. Now, I spoke at length to an American buddy from Free Domain Radio today, and he sees that as maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome or something. Like she's been away from the public school so damn long that she's patterned onto her parents and anyone who's not in the little clique. He's assuming this, right? He's assuming that there's some kind of, I don't know, horrible little lock you in the cellar kind of thing going on here for Mark. I've spoken to Mark. He's a great guy, great Englishman, and pretty sure there's plenty of opportunities for interaction with these kids. My alternative idea is that rather than being Stockholm syndromed by going out of public school, you get the opportunity to grow some neurons that you might not otherwise be able to, and you get to bond to your parents in a good way that you might not otherwise be able to. These are good parents. These are great guys. This is a Free Domain Radio listener, and we like those guys, don't we? For trying to do good by their kids and trying to unschool and get out of the horrible state Pink Floyd production line system. I'm thinking it's like The Matrix, if you've seen that movie, when Neo comes out of the Matrix. He does not want to go in and socialize when he goes back with his old buddies. And when he, in fact, comes out, he's like, oh, I can't see. What's going on? And Morpheus is like, oh, your eyes hurt. You've never used them before. Right? So that's what the world looks like when you come out of the Matrix and you go back. Well, now the people you used to hang out with, they look stupid. I think that's a good thing. Well done. Now, here's where we get into the movie clips. So my idea is Mark's daughter is in detox. She's been hooked on public school for 10 years, and she's been out for 2. Is it not conceivable that 2 years is not enough for a come down from that? 2 years is not enough to be uninstitutionalized, to get it out of your system, to sweat it out, to detox. I'm going to play some Shawshank Redemption and some Game of Thrones to back this one up now, because that Matrix analogy just ain't enough for me. But let me go for a Cool Hand Luke one before I play it, and think about it like this. So could it not be that Mark's daughter, rather than coming out of school and then having the institutionalization effect and saying, Daddy, you need to force me now. You need to send me back to school. Make me work. Is that, as Steph processed this, a cry for help? You should have listened to her, send her back. Make her do this work. Uh, I don't like saying make her. I know that that's not the words or the language that Steph seems to want to use. Now, it's pretty hard to find some alternative words. Forgive me. It's cold out here. It's real. It's a chilly night. It's winter time in New Zealand. Okay, so it's like Cool Hand Luke. She's come out of jail, and then when she goes past her old chain gang, they all look like idiots, doing as they're told, fetching some water, shoving things around. They're a chain gang on the side of the road, run by the prison, doing some roading or some damn thing, some community work, picking up litter on the side of the road. She used to do that. She's been away from it. It used to be her scene. She goes back now. She looks at the people like that, and they look stupid. That makes sense. All right, let's do some more about institutionalization from our good friend Morgan Freeman in the film Shawshank Redemption. Now, this first clip, I should introduce it a little bit. This is where the old man, he realizes he's institutionalized. He's been in this jail a long, long time, and what he wants to do is stay because it's his comfort zone. So let's see what happens. Let's see what his solution is to his anxiety about leaving this jail where he's been for a long time, and how he tries to get his security needs met. No, on second thoughts, we're not going to do that. Just look at the picture I'll put up over my shoulder. I'll tell you what happens, and then we'll go to Morgan Freeman. So the old man, he's a librarian, he's a feeble old guy. His solution, he takes the knife, and he grabs one of his fellow prisoners and sticks the knife to his throat and says, "I'm a dangerous man, I belong in jail." And he threatens his friends and scares them until they talk him out of it. And then, after this has all gone down, the guys in the yard are talking about what's just happened, and they're a bit shaken. They're like, "Why did this happen?" Andy Dufresne's like, "I just can't figure it out." And Morgan Freeman's got the answer.
You knock it off. Brooks ain't no bug. It's just institutionalized.
Institutionalized my ass.
The man's been in here 50 years, Hayward. 50 years. This is all he knows. In here, he's an important man. He's an educated man. Outside, he's nothing. Just a used-up con with arthritis in both hands. Probably couldn't get a library card if you tried. You know what I'm trying to say?
Red, I do believe you're talking out of your ass.
You believe whatever you want, Floyd. But I'm telling you, these walls are funny. First you hate them, then you get used to them. Enough time passes, you get so you depend on them. That's institutionalized.
Shit. You can never get like that. Oh, yeah? Say that when you've been here as long as Brooks has.
Goddamn right. They send you here for life. That's exactly what they take. Part that counts, anyway.
So that's a pretty cool movie, huh? I'll try not to... Now, what the hell, has been out for years. I will spoil it. Stop me now. What happens next is the old man does go out into the world, and as he predicted successfully, he can't adapt. He can't even deal with traffic, because when he went to jail, automobiles weren't really a thing, and now, what is this movie, the 40s, the 50s? 50s, I think. And he's out on the street, and he doesn't know which way to look to avoid getting run over. He gets a shitty job packing groceries, and he gets treated like a little boy when he's used to being the smartest guy, the wise old man of his institution. So he's a lot like Mark's daughter, and all of us who have been in the system in these damn Pink Floyd production line sausage factory state schools get programmed like this. Read Dumbing Us Down, watch Waiting for Superman. Also, Deschooling Society is a great book about this sort of process, which I think Stefan and the Free Domain Radio community all embrace, don't they? We understand that this is what public school is, and we try and get the hell out of there. Those who have been there need to be unschooled, deprogrammed, unhypnotized, detoxed. Now, Mark's daughter has been in school for 10 years. 2 years is all she's been away from it in this unschooling process. What's she achieved in that time? Well, she hasn't become a mathematics genius, and I feel that that's being fixated on a lot. Interesting, I was going to say Morgan Freeman goes down the same track, and what happens to that old man nearly happens to him. See, I didn't entirely spoil it. Let's just say he meets with some serious effing difficulty on the outside of Shawshank prison. Alright, now here's a similar thing, which, for those of you who haven't seen Shawshank Redemption, you've probably seen this. I figure they're contrasting demographics, if anything. So let's cover it this way. The very latest episode, the finale, and there won't be another one for a few months, I reckon, of Game of Thrones. So if you like that, you probably have seen this a few times by now. Do you remember the old man? And he's making basically the same plea as Brooks was in Shawshank Redemption. He's just been set free from slavery, and he's saying, I don't know what to do with myself now. Now, in Game of Thrones, they don't really have they've got a labour market problem on their hands. They've just freed up slavery, but they don't have anything to replace it with. And if I were there shooting arrows and swinging swords, I'd be like, oh, okay, I got some libertarian economics for you. What we'll do is we'll liberalise the labour laws, we'll do away with slavery, and you can contract to be an in-house tutor to your old family and your old masters, and they'll pay you, or you can come to terms, but it ain't going to be slavery anymore, old man. Not quite how they handled it in the show. It's like, what do we do now? Anyway, you get the idea. This is the scene that was replayed, and this is the tension. But it's not just old men coming out of slavery or jail. It also is the case for our children. So refresh your memory by watching this clip.
What can I do for you?
When you took the city, the children begged me not to leave the house. But Master McDowell and I agreed that I must, so I lost my home. Now I live on the street. What purpose would I serve? With my master, I was a teacher. I had the respect and love of his children.
What is it that you want from me?
Your Grace, I ask you to let me sell myself back to Master McDowell.
You want to return to a man who owned you, like a goat or a chair?
Please, Your Grace. The young may rejoice in the new world you have built for them, but for those of us too old to change, there is only fear and squalor. I am not alone. There are many outside waiting to beg.
Alright, it's time for the American question. Now, I spent a lot of time talking to my buddy today in Texas, another Free Domain Radio subscriber, like myself, who in fact in his case is American, whereas I'm European or Antipodean or colonial, if you like. That is going to become relevant in a moment, I think. Now, I told him before we started to debate and discuss this very issue that I haven't been able to change anyone's mind, and nor has anyone from the other side been able to change mine when it comes to should children be intrinsically or extrinsically motivated. Still the case after 4 or 5 hours of he and I talking, which just helped me understand that this is serious, legit stuff. This is a real impasse that we have here. It's called the American question. Let me frame it a little bit. Steph will tell you, as he did in this podcast, that there is a springtime for reading. A time where your mind is primed, and it's 5, so your kid has to go, go, go. Others say 10 is fine. Others say when the child is ready, that's when it goes. So that's the tension. Now, it seems to me that it's a little bit like a gardening analogy, and I'm going to quote Anis Nin, who I think is French, a lovely little quote that I found some time ago. So suppose Mark's daughter is like a rosebud, a little rosebud, and it wants to come out in its own time. And it needs the right soil and water and sunshine, possibly some fertilizer from the garden keeper or the gardener, who would be Mark and his wife. Now what Stefan Molyneux, oh this is good, I've got a crowbar right here, didn't plan this. What Steph would appear to want to do is come to these rosebuds and say, you're 5 years old, rise and shine, open sesame. Here's another thought, and this is where Mark and I are coming from. Here's the quote, I'll read it. Excuse me. And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. Anis Nin. So, do you understand that? It's going to take a little bit of unpacking. Have a think about it, the writing. It took me a while to click to this, that this is the alternative view, right? You do not pry open the bud, you facilitate it, you grow it, let it open in its own time. That's what our children really do, and they can. They're self-actualized. What's the term? No, I read a bit of Carl Rogers, or I'm going to screw that up too. The bald guy? Oh, Professor X from the 70s? Oh yes, the tendency toward actualization. That's what I believe in. Well, more about this later, I imagine. The children are born to be scientists. They're born interested. You do not have to make them learn the value of work. You don't need to teach them the value of trying hard. For goodness sake, I've raised children from birth. They want to walk, crawl, they want to talk, they want to move. There's nothing you need to do to bring that out of them. It's happening, like it or not. Giddy up, get on board, saddle up. You've got a baby, they'll do that.
The American question. These cautionary comments bring us back to the disagreement between Piaget and many North American psychologists about how cognitive development occurs. As you can see from Piaget's stages, he views infants as actively organizing their experiences themselves. He speaks of children adapting their reflexes, making interesting sights last, finding new ways to achieve their goals, and makes little mention of the role of parents or specific learning experiences. He does not think development should be accelerated. In fact, he called "What should we do to foster cognitive development?" the American question, because it was one of the first questions Americans asked when he lectured to them. He implied that something about American society rather than something about infant development makes us ask that question. Whatever the reason, Americans not only ask the question, they also set about to answer it, demonstrating that infants can be taught to do many things if the learning processes are correctly programmed. For instance, with proper reinforcements, such as a pleasant taste or an interesting sight, infants can be taught to turn their heads in a particular sequence, kick their legs at a target, vocalize more often, or perform almost any other behavior within their capacity.
Alright, let's wrap this baby up. I'm getting pretty tired. I'm not a night person. Let's have a look at this learning curve. I'll put that up there. Steph talked about a gap analysis. So if you look at this first diagram I've very skillfully done, this is a learning curve for the average student at a public school. As Mark said, they're kind of cabbaging along like a bunch of whipped slaves back in ancient Egypt. And here's another graphic which I drew, which might represent the very steep learning curve required of Mark's daughter. So she's got to very quickly make up a lot of ground and then maintain the same steady, slow growth curve upwards into higher learning as her classmates. Now, Steph was possibly correct to say that she was being set up to fail, possibly not. Is this a reasonable climb or is it not? I think it could be. They talked about it, there was a pep talk, and daughter decided, yep, gonna give it a go. Do they really need to know exactly to a quantifiable level what these functions are? What's the difference between me and the other students when it comes to this, that, and the other? Or can you just do it empirically? They've got a bit of a clue, and they're going to find out as they go along. I didn't think that was a terribly bad plan. Steph thought it was awful. Now, I do certainly understand that the daughter was put into a really difficult situation. Perhaps she was set up to fail. She was put into a room that was filled with students that were a class down from her, and still she was kind of the dumbest kid in the class, especially when it comes to math, as was reiterated time and again. Mark made a point that it did not come across well from him at 1 a.m. when he was tired doing this podcast. I can relate. It's only 9 o'clock where I am. What am I complaining about? It's just that I like to be asleep now. Nah, I got about half an hour in me before I turn into a pumpkin. Let's see if I can persist with my vain attempts to get this uploaded to YouTube tonight. Okay, here's this is the analogy that Mark tried to make, I think, which is that as the crow flies is not the same as how, I don't know, a donkey pulls a carriage up a hill. Let me take another run at that one. 3 years at the PhD level, Steph was trying to suggest, I think, was equivalent for a child of 15, a young adult. Same thing as the 3 years that she had to make up for. And Mark was trying to suggest, oh my god, I'm so tired, this is sounding boring and stupid and slow. Stay on target. It's not the same thing, Steph. I know you're not stupid. Mark wasn't suggesting you were stupid. The thing is, Mark's daughter is going to be doing mathematics with the support of teachers and parents, tutors if necessary, and she could make up that gap with that sort of support. When you're at the frontier of knowledge at the PhD level, sure, it's not the same thing. As Mark literally said, it's not the same demand on the mind, even for her. For her, it was potentially possible, and they were taking a swing at it. I don't know if I've put that across as well as I could, but geez, if someone else could maybe pick that one up and run with it, that'd be great. I think basically Mark had good instincts about this, that it was right for him to have a chill up his spine when Steph came at him suggesting you need to listen to your daughter, she's freaking out, you need to do a gap analysis, you set her up to fail, it's not fair, you need to start getting her on task doing her work. You know, that's what the Americans say, whereas the continental guys are more inclined to say get your emotions in order, get your will to learn in order, and take it from there. The rest will follow. Teach a guy to fish, the rest follows. Don't do the hierarchical top-down, here's fish, fish, fish. This is the part where I wanted to bring in some Maslow. I'll put that on the screen for you. I would suggest that in the 2 years versus 10 years of schooling, the unschooling of 2 years, perhaps Mark's daughter achieved a little bit more than you think. Maybe she, how did I put it today, turned a few tumblers in the lock. She managed to get a few neurons and synapses to grow in the right direction. So perhaps she got some safety needs met. She got some more security and protection, some more belongingness and love needs with relationships, affection and family. And maybe that's part of and developmental toward cognitive needs. Cognitive needs, particularly math. Let's just admit it, shall we? that didn't work out so well. We'll just go with that argument. Possibly she's flourished when it comes to English, not so much the maths, okay? But what she might have achieved, which she would not and could not have in a public system, are some of these basic needs, like feeling more secure and feeling like she can learn, like her time is her own. Now, do a gap analysis of that if you're really into measuring things. Who is to say that these 2 years of unschooling have not been brilliant developmentally, and that she just needs a little bit more, that it's not time to abandon the whole thing? Now, I think if Mark had called Dana Martin, or if he'd spoken to me, or possibly someone on the continent, if you want to go with this idea that of the American question, which I quoted a moment ago, I think he wouldn't have had a chill up his spine. He wouldn't have had someone say, nah, forget this unschooling thing, just start drilling her. She needs to be ready, or she won't be able to use a tumble dryer, or she won't be able to travel because she doesn't understand bus timetables. You know, peril, peril, you're in trouble, quickly, we'll come back and develop emotions and feelings and EQ later. That's very much what the Americans appear to be all about. How can I speed up? And that seems to be the big tension from my point of view, that the value of having your emotional intelligence, if it's pitted against cognitive needs being met, the Americans seem to think cognitive comes first, you can deal with this other one down the track a bit. So it comes later. Where the hell's later when I'm doing this with my hands? I don't know. Don't try anymore. You too tired, Rick? So, yeah, that's the other thing. Let me finish on this. I think when it comes to this diagram, the reason that Mark's daughter would be distressed and crying would not be because she's been set up to fail so much, but as I was saying a moment ago, she's being detoxed. She's coming down. She's being deinstitutionalized. She's just gotten out of jail / Game of Thrones slavery. She isn't ready to have her cognitive needs met. She's still busy with the safety needs part, and she did not feel safe in that school. Alright. I think that's probably enough vidcasting for one night, and possibly entirely. So if I forgot to say anything, too bad. Too tired now. Must stop. I think I got most of it in. Please debate me, Steph, or talk to Dana Martin, or somebody. Talk to some educational dudes. Please don't kick me off your forum. I want to be there and I want to donate. Don't hate me because I'm not an American with the same metaphysical value judgments as you. I'm not being unreasonable. My conduct hasn't been poor on the board. I don't like Mike very much. I don't know why he's so mean to me. Can we please sort this out? Let's do some kind of a Skypey thing when I'm more awake, and we'll nail this thing, man. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and if you're wrong, you're going to be overjoyed, aren't you? Alright. Thank you for watching, and I sure hope that this gets the attention that it deserves, even though it is transmitted through the imperfect instrument of a soon-to-be slumbering New Zealand boy. Rick out.